Good morning, everybody. Stefan Haas is the name. Been doing these presentations for a while now, so some of you may have seen me once or twice before. Always enjoyable to be in front of a group of people who are actually excited about the cloud, want to learn about the cloud, and actually want to see how it can make sense for their business. Before I start, just a quick question to each of you, who's been away on holiday this year? And how many of you have been abroad? The vast majority. Now, why is it that you go abroad? It's for a number of reasons, isn't it? One, because you pretty much guarantee the sun if you go a little bit further south than the UK. And two, because you spend all your working time in around the office, then going back home, you want to see something different, don't you? But then ask yourself, when you actually do go on holiday, do you just make a willy-nilly decision to say, okay, I'll just go to Morocco. I'm just going on the Inca Trail. No, you don't. Now, the reason why you don't just make that kind of decision, because you actually think and ask, okay, who's actually coming on the holiday with me? Yeah? What's the point taking my 6-year-old on the Inca Trail? What's the point taking my 17 and 19-year-old into a family resort when they want to see a bit of action? Yeah? You actually ask and consider your key stakeholders before you embark on that journey. Yeah? But the thing is, you do embark on that journey, and that's what the cloud's all about. You don't stay at home, you do actually go away because you want somebody else to take care of all this stuff that you don't really want to do. You just want to enjoy the holiday. You want to go out there, have a bit of fun, have some nice weather, but you want to be in charge of what you're actually doing once you're out there. But you don't want to fly the plane, you don't want to run the hotel, run the apartment, run the villa. You want somebody else to actually look after it for you, but you just want to enjoy it. And that's from my point of view what cloud is all about. But you've got to ask yourself, who are the people that I need to consider and consult as part of this, in order to firm up my holiday strategy, firm up my cloud strategy, and how to actually adopt it. Now, from a business case point of view, it's absolutely vital that you've asked your business what is it they want. Is it about outsourcing? Is it about reducing internal costs? Is it about reducing capital expenditure? Is it about reducing the risk? Is it about increased flexibility? Do we want to be more innovative and find ways and means to actually do that quicker, cheaper, and better? But unless you ask those questions, how do you know that your strategy is actually the right one for your organization? And every organization is different. Even if in the same sector, your drivers, your objectives are different. You've got to make sure you establish those in the first place. But you've got to consult your stakeholders. You've got to consult your family before the holiday. Where are we going? Why are we going there? What is it you want to get out of the holiday? What is it you want to get out of the cloud? And everybody, again, will have slightly different objectives. Yes, cost in the middle is a key consideration for all of them. But the chief exec, for example, is more interested about customer retention. The CFO, of course, wants to see more for his money. He doesn't want to spend anything. He wants to reduce capital outlay. He wants to reduce operational expenditure. Whereas the COO is more interested about, are my customers actually happy? Do they get satisfaction? Do they get value for money? Can I retain those customers? Can I re-sign them again in 3 years' time? Again, these guys have to buy into your strategy. You've got to understand what is it that they want, how can I extrapolate that into my own cloud service strategy. When you actually do go down the road of deploying cloud services, again, consider quite hard, what is it that you want to get out of it and how can you actually roll it out? Again, you want to go on holiday to enjoy it. You want somebody else to run the hotel for you. You just want to make sure it's got a nice big pool. Yeah? And it's available when you actually want it. It's not shut down during the lunch hours when you're actually most likely to use it. You want to make sure it's there when you need it. You want somebody else to actually be responsible for running the place, but you just want to use it when and where you need it. Things like compliance need to be considered. Yeah, you're still parking some of your most important data within the cloud. You've got to make sure that data actually can be recovered, is available, and is retained for the appropriate amount of time. That responsibility doesn't go away. We don't want to make sure that your service provider does actually take care of that. Things like disaster recovery should be built in as a default. You should always look for resilience. So if you move your data into the cloud, have you got a second copy in another data center? Can your service provider offer you that? If not, then obviously you've got some liabilities. You've got to make sure you've got the resilience built into the cloud. So it really allows you to focus on your end users and your applications. Yeah? You don't have to worry about what's out there, how does it work. No, you just worry about how you can actually use it, how you can make the best out of it, and how it delivers value to your organization. You can actually deliver the applications that your business needs. So who are the current holiday operators? You've got the package tour operators, the public cloud. Yeah? You know exactly what you're going to get, but you can't really change it. Yeah? The flight leaves at the time that's stipulated. You get to the hotel on coach or by minicab. Again, you're not in charge of that. They'll get you there, they'll get you back, but you have got limited flexibility. But if that's what you want, perfect. It does work. You've got the hybrid cloud, where you take the best of both worlds. You make use of what's out there, but you actually define and deliver it to your specific requirements. A little bit more flexibility, a little bit more ownership. You actually know what's out there, but how we can tailor it to your specific requirements. So if you look at what's currently out there, the public cloud versus the private or hybrid cloud. See, a public cloud, it's easy to roll out. It does tend to work, even though it may not always be 24/7 available, but it does give you little customization. If that's what you need for a certain application, fine. Salesforce.com, for example, might just do exactly the trick for you. Does it deliver you, the flexible applications across the board? No. But for specific requirements, yes, it does the trick. But it's designed for mass market. It's not designed for, tweak here and a tweak there to meet your specific requirements, but that's why it's cheap. It's a trade-off between, quality of service and price you pay for it. And again, it depends on what kind of application you want to host in there. So for some it works, for others it doesn't. In a hybrid cloud, yes, it is slightly more expensive, but you have got ultimate flexibility. You have got scalability when you need it, only pay for what you actually use. But you've got somebody at the end of the line who actually will pick up the phone to an SLA that's previously been agreed with you. It's not kind of standard SLA, go to a website, by the way, have a look on our Twitter blog for any sort of update on the recent service outage we've had. You want somebody at the end of the line who actually picks up the phone, who makes sure that your concerns and your issues are actually taken seriously. So you get complete 24/7 support. And the other thing that we see time and time again is absolutely vital, the data actually does reside within territory. If you go with some of the larger vendors, the public cloud vendors, where does the data actually reside? Do you know? Can you be assured? Can you be assured it doesn't actually leave the UK? In most cases, no, you can't. Again, it might work for some applications, but for some organizations, businesses, and types of data, there is an absolute requirement for data to reside within territory, to reside within the UK. So you've got to make sure, again, that you understand what your requirements are and that those services actually meet those requirements. Uptake rates for both have been quite decent, but they have been decent in different types of environments. Again, software as a service or public cloud has been quite successful for specific applications, for mass market applications, and in particular industries. So they've seen maybe slightly wider adoption across the board, but let's just say for smaller footprints. When people actually in organizations make the decision to go with an infrastructure as a service, that's a decision that's actually taken across the board, not just for a specific application. They actually consider, okay, does this work for all my applications? I may not want to rule them out quite yet, but I want to make sure that it actually is fit for purpose. So when people actually do make the jump into infrastructure as a service, that's actually quite a bigger step quite often than software as a service. But for most people, that is the next step into the cloud because they're still completely in charge of the application. They just make sure that somebody else looks after the server environment, the storage environment, the infrastructure environment, the data centers, make sure it's secure, it's resilient, and protected. But they still decide how much do they want, what application do they want to put on there, how do they want to protect the data. So it gives you quite clear and clean lines of demarcation between the service provider and you as the end user. and again allows your in-house IT team to drive both end users and applications. The long-term benefits are absolutely vital, again, when you build your business case. You need to understand not only what you can get out the cloud today, so instance of immediate cost savings for this year's financial budget, but how is it actually going to have an impact on my organization over the months and years to come? And cost and risk are the two big hitters there. Of course you want to be able to reduce your capital expenditure. Yes, of course you want to reduce your operational expenditure. But it's also about predicting what you will spend going forward. At the moment, if you need to have, you bring on a new business unit, for example, you make an acquisition, you don't quite know what those costs are going to be to bring that business on board. But if you know you've got 300 users to bring on board, you know you need to provide X numbers of service for that, X numbers of applications, and you have got defined cost prices with your provider, you know exactly what those uplifts in cost will actually be. So it's predictability. At the same time, you need to divest of that organization again. You get rid of those 300 users. You don't want to be lumbered with the equipment that you actually had in the first place to support that. Actually, then you reduce your usage and reduce your expenditure again. And the other one, of course, is risk. We would never advocate to move all applications into the cloud at the same time. It's not going to work. As good as infrastructure may be, it's not going to work. You want to make sure you actually roll it out application by application. That you have a defined test, acceptance, production plan. Make sure you know what you want to get out of it. Make sure you've agreed the acceptance criteria internal as well as with the service provider. And then once all of these have been met, you actually roll out. And then move on to the next application. Again, that makes sure that you reduce the risk within the business and you actually get value for money. But by having end-to-end resilience within the cloud, by having regulatory compliance, you can actually make sure that your long-term risks are greatly reduced. But it also allows you to actually drive innovation within the business. Can we not just try, we've got this new application, I would just want to see, is there actually a marketplace for it? Or you just quickly fire it up in the cloud. You can have a proof of concept running for 3 months. If it works, fantastic, you continue. If it doesn't, well, then you just remove it again. Cost and risk have gone. But it allows you to be innovative. It allows you to try different things. It allows you to be different from your competitor. You want to be different. You want to be better. So it's all about sort of long-term growth, long-term growth of the top line as well as the bottom line, and actually allowing you to have that kind of flexibility, which is difficult to do when everything is in-house. When you've got a fixed cost and it's difficult to get sign-off and approval for additional expenditure because it tends to be in larger figures. Whereas here it's just small incremental uplift and then you can reduce it down again if it doesn't work out for you. And as I said, when you want to move things into the cloud, the methodology should be to migrate one application at a time. What applications can we actually move into the cloud today? What are probably not the best candidates and we should maybe consider a little bit later down the line once the business and all the end users have actually acknowledged and experienced that the cloud environment is what they need and does deliver what they want. Because you can always make sure that you actually fine-tune that environment to meet those specific requirements during the rollout. Just because you thought you might need a little bit more, a little bit less at the beginning, it doesn't really matter. You have got the ability to fine-tune it when you actually need to. But because it's a tested and proven environment as a whole, you don't need to check, okay, is the data center actually secure? Is the network resilient? Is the power supply resilient? What kind of equipment is running in there? Now, all that has been done for you already. Of course, you want to see evidence of that, but it's not that you have to go through the whole cycle of infrastructure testing again. You just want to test your application. Does it actually work within that environment? Does it deliver me the performance that I need? If not, how can I improve it or how can I reduce it? Yeah? But because it's a hosted service, all those other concerns have already been taken care of for you. Now, security does come up time and time again, and it's absolutely vital to include that in your business case. If you just ignore that, when it comes to the RFP, it will come up time and time again. Well, what about security? Where's our data? How does it protect, who has access to the data center? Are they accredited? These are all the kind of questions that do come up, so you've got to make sure that's included in your business case. Do you know who your service provider is? Are they funded by VC, or are they actually owned and managed within the UK? Is it a subsidiary of an international organization, or are they actually homegrown here? What kind of track record have they got? How long have they been operating? What experience have they got? They might be a big player, but they've got no experience in the actual service provider marketplace. Or they might be a smaller player, but all they have got is experience in the service provider marketplace. So again, it's vital to understand who your service provider is. And what kind of safeguards do they actually put in place to protect your environment and protect your data? How easy is it to access the data center physically as well as through the network? What protection are actually put in place? Does your service provider actually provide you a consistent backup of your technology? Is it right to say, your data is here and now we just do some tape backups? Now, why would you suddenly, just because you move into cloud, sort of degrade the protection of your data from what you currently do, where you may do side-to-side replication? You've got to make sure that those considerations are taken care of and your data is actually protected properly. Are your servers and applications available? And what kind of uptime can the service provider actually guarantee you? And how does it fit into your own business continuity and disaster recovery processes? Now, if a certain application is already in the cloud and protected, if you should have a site outage, that application isn't affected. You just got to make sure you've got access to that application from other sites, from home, from hotels, or from EDR location. But you don't have to concern yourself about the recovery of the data because that doesn't need to be recovered. It's already protected in the cloud. Ask your service provider, who actually will pick up the phone when I raise my support ticket? Is it somewhere in the Far East because it's cheaper out there, or is it actually here? Are they actually linked to the people who will then actually come out on site maybe and then assist my team to make sure I get best of class support? Are they joined up? I'd always would advise anybody who wants to move into the cloud, go and have a look at the environment. Everybody can have fancy websites and great marketing collateral and have all the blogs, all the information in the world. Go and find out for yourself. Go and have a look. Go and speak to the people. Speak to existing customers. Not just the friendly ones, but also the unfriendly ones. Ask for one, something has gone wrong. How did they respond? How did they fix it? What was the SLA? Because things will go wrong. Things will always go wrong. But it's how quickly do we actually respond? How do we make sure that that particular thing doesn't happen again? How do we learn from our mistakes? That's what you want to know from your service provider. Also, compliance, ISO, PCI is absolutely vital. We see that pretty much any RFP now, even if the business themselves might not need it, their end user clients want to see that when the data is hosted in the cloud, that the provider actually is ISO 27001 compliant. The infrastructure is ISO 9001 compliant. So again, that is absolutely vital. So once you move things into the cloud, you've then obviously got to make sure that you can measure what you've done out there. And again, that has to be aligned to your business objectives. If you establish those objectives, you've got to make sure, okay, let's align them to that. So we want to reduce cost. That's great. Can we actually prove it? Have we reduced on a year-by-year basis our capital outlay? Have we reduced our operational cost, our power cost, our facility cost, our people cost, our software cost? If the answer is no, then of course you've got a good point to go back to your service provider and say, hang on, that isn't really working out for me. You've got to make sure you measure those performances. If you ask your IT team now, we need this new application online, how long will it take you? Assume there's no kit available, so right, we've got to purchase the kit, make sure it actually gets delivered to site, gets installed, gets built, gets delivered, racked up and everything else. Then we need to install the OS, then the application, blah, blah. It will take you weeks in a normal environment. If you've got dozens of HP servers lying around, then well done, but in most organizations, they don't. So it will take you a time to do that. In the cloud, it shouldn't. It should take you minutes to have a new application, have a new environment up and running. So when next time you get the question, that can be up and running later on today, no problem. And they say, well, how are you going to do that? Well, because we've got the equipment already in the cloud, and we can easily configure a new server to the same standard we've got with another server, or upload a new platform, and we do it very, very quickly. And the last one, of course, again, absolutely vital, what are the SLAs? What are the published SLAs? How are they met? Let's measure them. Yeah? If you need 4 nines, 5 nines, it can be done in the cloud. Where it does fall down regularly is the network. Because we know networks are intrinsically difficult to operate and manage. Unless you've got resilient links into your own environment, from your environment into the cloud, it's difficult to do that. In the cloud itself, in the environment, yes, it is easy to do. Because resilience within data centers, within server storage networks, is easy to do. Go ahead and measure your service provider on that. So in summary, should you go with your package operator, or should you do and design your own holiday using distinct components? Both of it is relevant, both of it can be done. It's all depending on what your business wants to achieve, your objectives are, and how you actually meet those objectives within the cloud. To understand what your family wants on holiday, what your key stakeholders want from the cloud. Is it about reducing cost? Is it about removing risk? Is it about being more flexible, scalable, and driving innovative applications into the end user base? We've got to understand what they are, and they have to be the key footprint to that business case. How do we actually roll these services out? Who do we use for that? Are we using software as a service? Are we using infrastructure as a service? Are we using a bit of both? Can we actually articulate the long-term benefits? Cost, risk, driving innovation, improving top-line growth, and explain that to the business. Like, if we do move into the cloud, these are the benefits we can arrive today as well as in the future. How secure is the cloud for us as an organization? What protection does my service provider put in place? How can they prove that to me? Have we been to site? Have we done a visit? Have they got accreditations? How do they protect our data? What are their customers saying? How do they deal with issues? Yeah, these are all the kind of things you should consider. And then, throughout the life cycle of migrating things into the cloud, make sure you measure the performance. Everybody promises the world. Of course they do, because they work in marketing and sales, like myself. But when it actually comes down to it, can they actually deliver? From our point of view, if we can't deliver a service in 12, 24, and 36 months' time, we haven't done the job because we haven't been able to renew and re-sign that particular customer. We all know how difficult it is to get new business on board, so you've got to look after your existing customers. So as a service provider, we have to make sure that we can meet the defined SLAs and services that we actually sell to our customers, and that our customers can actually be given the evidence that, yes, we have delivered on those performances, requirements. And with that, I sound a bit somber, actually. I was just thinking to myself. I thank you very much.